Have you ever wondered what it's like to truly embrace life after 60? What if the key to happiness, peace, and fulfillment in your later years isn't about achieving more, but letting go of the things that hold you back? In this video, we're diving deep into 9 life-changing habits that many people stop doing after reaching 60. These aren't just tips. They're mindset shifts that can transform the way you approach aging, relationships, and personal happiness. You'll discover why you don't need to worry about what others think anymore and how to build a life that's authentic to you. Learn how to stop tolerating toxic relationships and embrace the freedom of setting boundaries. Find out how to let go of unrealistic expectations of others and finally start enjoying relationships for what they are, imperfect, yet beautiful. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to let go of the pressure of being busy all the time and instead focus on what matters. Plus, you'll learn how to find peace in your present life, without stressing about long-term plans or striving for perfection. These insights can help you live a more intentional, fulfilling life, and they can start right now. Don't miss out on these transformative habits that will guide you through the best years of your life. Watch until the end for the wisdom that can bring greater joy, peace, and freedom into your life after 60. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. 1. No longer care what people think. One of the most profoundly liberating experiences of reaching the age of 60 is the release from the oppressive weight of caring about what others think. For much of our lives, we are caught in a constant struggle to meet external expectations, allowing the opinions of others to shape our choices, our self-worth, and even our happiness. Whether it's the relentless pressure to look a certain way, achieve a specific level of success, or behave in a way that fits society's narrow mold, we often find ourselves bending and contorting to please those around us. We exhaust ourselves trying to keep up with standards that feel more like chains than aspirations. But then, somewhere along the journey, something extraordinary happens. After 60, a monumental shift occurs. It's as if the curtain is drawn back, revealing a stunning truth. Most people are not paying as much attention to us as we once believed. They are too immersed in their own lives, battling their struggles, and fighting their insecurities. The power that once belonged to their opinions begins to slip away, leaving us with a profound sense of relief. The overwhelming need to impress, to fit into a predefined mold, dissipates like mist in the morning sun. This isn't a call to indifference or isolation. Far from it. It's a peaceful realization that we no longer require external validation to feel worthy or seen. The weight of others' judgments begins to lift, replaced by an extraordinary sense of self-assurance. With this newfound freedom comes a deep, unshakable confidence that only time can bring. It's the kind of confidence that arises not from the desire to impress, but from the quiet strength that we are enough as we are. No longer bound by the chains of societal expectations, we embrace a life lived authentically and on our terms. We wear what makes us comfortable, not what's trending. We speak our truth without fear of judgment, saying what we think without the need for approval. Our quirks, once seen as imperfections, now shine as beautiful marks of individuality. These traits become badges of honor rather than sources of shame. As this awareness deepens, we begin to reconnect with our truest selves, shedding the armor we once wore to shield us from the opinions of others. The grip of societal norms weakens, and we grow more attuned to what truly brings us peace, joy, and fulfillment. We stop wasting precious energy trying to meet the unspoken demands of the world. Instead, we pour that energy into cultivating meaningful relationships, nurturing passions that feed our soul, and embracing the present with a sense of contentment that is impossible to fake. In the end, we realize that the greatest freedom we can experience is not found in the approval of others, but in the quiet, powerful certainty that we are enough just as we are, unapologetically, beautifully, and authentically ourselves. 2. No longer put up with toxic people. For much of our lives, we tolerate toxic people out of a sense of duty, fear of confrontation, or a faint hope that somehow, things will change for the better. Whether it's a critical family member, an overbearing boss, or a friend who manipulates our emotions, we pour our energy into relationships that take more than they give. We may even cling to these connections, believing that walking away would be too difficult, too drastic, or even impossible. But as the years go by, especially after the age of 60, we begin to see things with a clarity that was once clouded by a sense of obligation and guilt. We come to realize, in a deeply profound way, that life is far too precious and fleeting to waste on negativity. The harsh truth becomes undeniable. The emotional toll of toxic relationships is far too great to ignore any longer. The energy we once spent trying to fix, appease, or endure the destructive behaviors of others becomes an obvious and wasteful expenditure. We come to understand, with a deep sense of self-respect, that protecting our peace is far more important than clinging to relationships that continually drain us. No longer do we feel trapped by societal expectations or the fear of disappointing others. Instead, we take back control, focusing on nurturing our emotional well-being rather than sacrificing it to accommodate people who refuse to evolve. This shift is not about isolation or pushing people away out of spite. It is about being exquisitely discerning in the company we keep. We choose to invest our time, energy, and love into those who uplift us, who bring positivity and support into our lives, rather than those who constantly stir conflict, create drama, or breed resentment. Setting firm boundaries becomes a loving act of self-care, a declaration of our worth, and a necessary step towards reclaiming our emotional sanctuary. Saying no to toxic people is no longer a difficult choice. It becomes a natural and empowering decision, a choice that we now embrace with the confidence that comes with age. It's not always easy, of course. The process of letting go, especially of long-standing relationships, can be painful and full of complex emotions. But after 60, we begin to recognize that we are not obligated to keep people in our lives who bring harm, and in doing so, we free ourselves to cultivate relationships that are genuine, nurturing, and rooted in respect. The energy once wasted on toxic interactions is now redirected towards activities that nourish our souls, people who truly care for us, and experiences that enrich our lives. By shedding the weight of toxicity, we create space for a more peaceful, fulfilling existence. One where we are free to live in joy, surrounded by love, and liberated from the suffocating grip of negativity. 3. No longer have unrealistic expectations of others. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. As we journey through life, especially in our younger years, we often carry unrealistic expectations of the people around us. We expect our partners to read our minds and understand us without the need for words, our friends to always be there in times of need, and our families to fill roles they may not be emotionally or practically equipped to handle. These expectations, though born out of a desire for connection and love, often lead to deep frustration, disappointment, and even resentment when others inevitably fail to meet them. When we are younger, we are sometimes blind to the fact that no one can consistently live up to these lofty ideals, and we take it personally when they fall short. But with age, particularly after 60, a profound shift occurs. We begin to realize, with a deeper sense of wisdom and acceptance, that expecting others to fulfill all of our needs is not only unrealistic but also inherently unfair. People are flawed, just like we are, and they cannot always act in ways that meet our hopes or desires. Life has taught us that perfection is a myth, and the more we cling to it, the more we set ourselves up for pain. In this realization, we come to see others as they truly are, beautiful, complex, imperfect human beings, each doing the best they can with what they have. This shift doesn't mean we settle for less in our relationships, nor does it mean we stop caring about the people in our lives. On the contrary, it's about accepting people as they are, flaws and all, with a heart open to understanding their unique struggles and limitations. By letting go of the need for perfection, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of disappointment and emotional strain. We open the door to more authentic, compassionate connections, ones that are built on the foundation of mutual understanding rather than unrealistic ideals. We begin to appreciate the small, yet meaningful gestures of kindness, love, and support, rather than fixating on what is lacking. A simple act of listening, a moment of shared laughter, or a thoughtful word becomes a treasure because we no longer measure relationships by unattainable standards. This change in perspective frees us from the toxic cycle of unrealistic expectations and replaces it with a sense of peace. When others don't behave as expected, we no longer feel hurt or betrayed. Instead, we find acceptance and understanding. We stop trying to change others to fit our idealized version of who they should be, and instead, we learn to appreciate them for the unique, beautiful individuals they are. In doing so, we cultivate relationships that are more harmonious, more forgiving, and ultimately more fulfilling. We become more compassionate, not just toward others, but also toward ourselves. We stop being so hard on ourselves for not meeting our impossible standards, and we embrace the grace that comes with knowing we are all simply trying our best. In this newfound acceptance, we create space for deeper, more meaningful connections. Relationships that aren't based on perfection, but on love, respect, and the shared human experience of growth. 4. No longer set complex goals. In the earlier chapters of life, we are often consumed by the relentless pursuit of complex goals. Whether it's climbing the career ladder, buying a dream home, raising children, or achieving financial independence, we devote ourselves to the chase, believing that each milestone will bring us closer to fulfillment. These goals, grand, ambitious, and often long-term, become the markers by which we measure our success, and with them comes an undercurrent of pressure and anxiety. We fear falling short, or not meeting our own, or society's, expectations, which leaves us constantly on edge, as though we're racing against an invisible clock. But by the time we reach 60, the weight of these heavy, often unreachable goals begins to lift. The feverish need to constantly strive for the next big achievement, to push ourselves toward ever more complex and distant objectives, starts to fade away. There's a profound shift in priorities that accompanies this stage of life. What once seemed essential, those external accomplishments and accolades, begins to lose its grip on our hearts and minds. The desire for perpetual growth, competition, and success gives way to a more meaningful and fulfilling pursuit, finding contentment in the simpler, more present aspects of life. The need to prove ourselves through relentless ambition begins to feel like a burden we no longer wish to carry. What we desire now is to savor the beauty of the present, and to live fully in each moment. Instead of setting complex long-term goals that require exhaustive planning, effort, and sacrifice, the goals we set in our 60s are smaller, more personal, and more immediate. These are goals grounded in what truly matters to us, taking care of our health, deepening our connections with loved ones, or nurturing a passion we've long neglected. These goals no longer require years of struggle or monumental effort. Instead, they center around the idea of making each day count, choosing joy, fulfillment, and peace in the here and now. With this shift comes a profound appreciation for the small victories that once might have been overlooked. The quiet joy of watching a plant bloom in a garden we've tended with our own hands, the satisfaction of taking a peaceful walk through nature, or the deepening of a relationship with a dear friend or family member, these are the moments that now hold the greatest value. We come to realize that true success is no longer defined by complex achievements, but by the richness of the simple moments that fill our days. Gone is the obsession with external validation and the pressure of long-term, often arbitrary goals. In their place is a life lived with intention, focus, and a deep sense of peace. We come to understand, more clearly than ever before, that the journey itself is far more important than any destination. There's no need to chase after the next big thing, for we've already found what we need right here, in the quiet satisfaction of the life we are living today. 5. No longer try to keep busy just for the sake of it. In a world that often measures success by how busy we are, many of us, especially in our younger years, become trapped in the frantic rhythm of constant motion. We juggle work, family responsibilities, social obligations, and endless tasks, convinced that being busy is a badge of honor. There's a deep-seated pride in the rush, a belief that the more we do, the more we accomplish. We convince ourselves that staying in motion and ticking off endless items from our to-do lists is the key to feeling fulfilled and purposeful. Yet, as we rush through life, we often find ourselves exhausted, disconnected, and devoid of any real sense of contentment. But by the time we reach 60, something remarkable shifts within us. The relentless need to be busy for the sake of it slowly begins to lose its grip. We start to realize, with growing clarity, that busyness is not synonymous with a meaningful or fulfilling life. In fact, we come to see that filling every moment with activity, while it may seem productive, can often prevent us from truly experiencing the richness and beauty of life's simpler pleasures. We begin to understand that constantly moving from one task to the next, without pause, only serves to drown out the quiet joys that make life worth living. The frantic pace that once defined our days gives way to a much more mindful approach. Life after 60 becomes less about the quantity of what we do and more about the quality of our time. This doesn't mean that we abandon productivity or engagement altogether. It simply means we become more intentional about how we choose to spend our precious time. Instead of packing every hour with commitments, tasks, and obligations, we learn to savor the moments of rest, reflection, and enjoyment that once seemed too indulgent or unimportant. We begin to value the quiet moments spent with loved ones, the joy of rediscovering a long-forgotten hobby, or the peace found in simply sitting still and taking in the present moment. Slowing down does not equate to being idle. It creates space for a deeper, more profound connection to ourselves and the world around us. We no longer rush from one thing to the next. Instead, we embrace each experience with greater presence and appreciation, allowing ourselves to truly savor what is happening right here, right now. The pressure to do it all fades into the background, replaced by a calm sense of peace and fulfillment. We find a renewed sense of purpose, not in what we accomplish, but in how we engage with the things that matter most. The need for constant busyness no longer defines us. Instead, we focus on meaningful connections, on nurturing our passions, and on living in alignment with our deepest values. This is the true freedom that comes with slowing down. The freedom to be present, to be mindful, and to live fully in each precious moment. 6. No longer engage in unnecessary debates. Earlier in life, we often feel compelled to assert ourselves, to voice our opinions, and to engage in debates on a vast range of subjects, from politics and social issues to personal choices and philosophies. It's as if these debates become the battlefield where we prove our intelligence, assert our identity, or defend our place within a social circle. We may have felt that it was essential to correct others, to make sure our views were heard and validated, and sometimes to win the argument as a means of reaffirming our worth. For many, debating could feel like a rite of passage, an intellectual exercise that demonstrated our depth and understanding of the world around us. But as we age, particularly after 60, something profound shifts within us. The urge to engage in every debate, to constantly defend or challenge others, slowly fades away. We begin to realize that the energy spent in these endless back and forths often leads nowhere meaningful, and the emotional cost becomes too great. What we once viewed as necessary discourse now seems trivial in comparison to the peace we crave. This doesn't mean that we lose passion for important issues or become passive when facing injustice. It means we've gained the wisdom to choose when and where to invest our emotional and mental energy. We come to understand that not every disagreement requires a response, and not every conversation needs to evolve into a battle. A clarity develops with age, a kind of peace that enables us to discern which conversations are truly worth having and which ones are best left unspoken. The urgency to prove a point, to correct or convince others, diminishes. Instead, we begin to cultivate a deeper sense of contentment by letting people have their own opinions, even when they differ from ours. We find a greater value in maintaining harmony, in relationships within ourselves, rather than in being right or having the last word. It becomes clear that many debates are futile, as most people are often deeply entrenched in their beliefs, and no amount of arguing will shift their perspectives. Rather than exhausting ourselves in fruitless exchanges, we learn to conserve our energy for more productive, meaningful conversations. This shift also brings an important realization. Life is simply too short to spend it arguing over things that, in the grand scheme, don't significantly impact our well-being or happiness. Time becomes a precious commodity, and we start to prioritize the things that truly matter. Positive interactions, personal growth, creative pursuits, and peaceful moments of reflection. By choosing to disengage from unnecessary debates, we open up space for more fulfilling experiences. Whether it's savoring time with loved ones, exploring new hobbies, or nurturing our self-development, these activities take precedence over conflict. But this shift doesn't mean we retreat from meaningful discourse entirely. After 60, we approach communication with a more thoughtful and intentional mindset. We no longer feel compelled to engage in debates that escalate into arguments. Instead, we seek discussions that promote mutual respect, understanding, and learning. Listening becomes more valuable than speaking, and the goal shifts from convincing others to simply sharing ideas. Conversations become less about dominating and more about connecting, learning from one another, and expanding our perspectives. Letting go of unnecessary debates improves the quality of our relationships. Whether it's with family, friends, or acquaintances, choosing not to engage in heated arguments fosters a more peaceful and harmonious atmosphere. The focus moves from proving someone wrong to preserving the connection, and differences of opinion are accepted with grace and respect. This leads to deeper, more meaningful relationships where understanding and kindness take precedence over ego and conflict. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Ultimately, the decision to disengage from unnecessary debates brings a sense of peace, both internally and externally. The mind is no longer cluttered with arguments, and the emotional energy once spent on these battles is now preserved for the things that truly matter. After 60, there's a clearer sense of what's important and what isn't. Choosing peace over conflict becomes not only a personal choice but a way to enrich the overall quality of life, allowing us to live more fully in the moments that matter most. 7. No longer strive for perfection. Perfectionism is a weighty, often invisible burden that many of us carry throughout our lives. In our younger years, we are relentlessly driven to be perfect in every aspect of our existence, whether it's our careers, our relationships, or our appearance. We measure our success by the unattainable ideal of flawlessness, believing that anything less is a failure. The pressure to meet these impossible standards can be overwhelming, and we find ourselves trapped in a cycle of constant striving, convinced that we're always falling short. It becomes a voice in the back of our minds that says we're not enough, that we need to do more, be more, and achieve more to earn the approval of ourselves and others. But as we grow older, especially after 60, something profound shifts within us. The weight of perfectionism begins to loosen, and we experience a liberating realization. Perfection is not only unattainable, it's unnecessary. Life, in all its beauty and complexity, is inherently messy. People are flawed, ourselves included, and it is these imperfections that make life so vibrant and so meaningful. This revelation doesn't come as a moment of defeat, but as one of deep acceptance. We come to understand that it's not the flawless moments that define us, but the imperfect, messy, real moments that make life worth living. The relentless pursuit of perfection often leads to stress, anxiety, and a gnawing sense of never being good enough. It creates a constant dissatisfaction, as if we're chasing an illusion, only to find that no matter how hard we try, the goal is always just out of reach. But with age comes the wisdom to see that the imperfections, the mistakes, the flaws, the things that don't go according to plan, are what shape us, what adds depth and color to our stories. This doesn't mean we abandon the desire to strive for excellence or do our best. It simply means we release the unrealistic pressure to have everything be flawless. We start to embrace the beauty of imperfection, in ourselves, in others, and the world around us. Letting go of perfectionism invites peace and contentment into our lives. Instead of trying to control every detail or force everything into a perfect mold, we begin to appreciate things as they are, beautifully flawed, wonderfully imperfect. Life becomes more about enjoying the moments as they come, without constantly evaluating them against some impossible standard. We find ourselves letting go of the need to perfect every experience, and instead, we embrace the richness of what's already there. This shift also fosters compassion, both for ourselves and others. We begin to understand that mistakes are simply part of the human experience. They don't diminish our value or define our worth. We learn that it's okay to stumble, to fall short, to be less than perfect. We stop holding ourselves to unattainable standards, and in doing so, we permit ourselves to be human. And in this acceptance, we become more compassionate toward others, recognizing their imperfections as part of their own beautiful, messy journey. After 60, life becomes less about the pursuit of an impossible ideal and more about savoring the imperfect moments that make it meaningful. We learn that we don't need to strive for perfection to be happy, to be fulfilled, or to be worthy. Instead, we discover that it is in the acceptance of our flaws, and the flaws of those around us, that we find true peace and contentment. Life, in all its beautiful imperfections, is enough. And in embracing that truth, we finally find the freedom to live fully and authentically, without the heavy burden of perfection weighing us down. 8. No longer worry about long-term plans. For much of our lives, we are conditioned to constantly worry about the future. From saving for retirement to planning for our children's education, from ensuring we have enough for unexpected emergencies to securing our financial future, the long term always seems to cast a shadow over our present. This ceaseless focus on what's next often carries with it a persistent underlying anxiety. We ask ourselves, will we be prepared? Will everything unfold as we hope? The endless cycle of what-ifs can be emotionally exhausting, and in many ways, it robs us of the peace and fulfillment we could otherwise find in the present moment. The effort to control an uncertain future can distract us from truly living. But by the time we reach 60, a profound shift begins to take place. While planning for the future remains an important part of life, the excessive worry and stress about things that lie beyond our control begins to subside. We start to see that life is inherently unpredictable. No matter how meticulously we plan, unexpected twists and turns will inevitably come our way. And that's perfectly fine. The realization dawns that worrying about what's ahead doesn't change anything, except the quality of today. Worrying about tomorrow simply robs us of the beauty and peace of the present moment. As the years pass, the clarity grows. Focusing too much on the distant future can rob us of the joy and fulfillment that come from simply living today. After 60, the shift in mindset becomes noticeable. Instead of asking, "What will my life look like in 10 or 20 years?" we begin to ask, "How can I make the most of today?" This isn't about abandoning responsibility or carelessly ignoring the future. It's about finding balance. We can still make plans, take necessary actions, and prepare for what lies ahead. But the key difference is that we no longer let fear of the unknown control our happiness, or dictate how we experience the present. Letting go of the burden of excessive worry brings an immense sense of freedom. We release ourselves from the constant pressure of what might happen years down the road, and we open up to the sheer joy of living fully in the here and now. Time becomes more precious and more cherished, and we begin to savor the simple, meaningful moments. The quiet mornings, the laughter shared with loved ones, or even the contentment of engaging in an activity that brings us joy. After 60, it's not about having all the answers for the future. Instead, we embrace the understanding that, whatever comes, we will handle it when it arrives. We face challenges, we adapt, and we grow stronger and more confident with each experience. In this new perspective, the future becomes less of a source of anxiety and more of a natural part of life's unfolding journey. It becomes something to look forward to, not something to fear. By freeing ourselves from the weight of constant worry, we make room for peace, joy, and gratitude for the present moment. The future no longer looms over us as a threat, but instead, as an unknown that we are more than capable of navigating. After all, life is lived in the present, and the more we embrace it, the richer and more rewarding our experience becomes. 9. No longer feel obligated to participate in every social activity. In the earlier stages of life, many of us feel an unrelenting obligation to say yes to almost every social invitation that comes our way. We are driven by a desire to fit in, to maintain appearances, and to avoid the discomfort of disappointing others. Whether it's attending family gatherings, workplace events, or social engagements with friends, we often feel compelled to show up, even at the expense of our well-being. The fear of missing out, or the overwhelming belief that we should always be socially available, can leave us stretched thin, exhausted, and disconnected from what truly matters. We become so preoccupied with being everywhere, doing everything, that we forget to check in with ourselves, and the pressure to keep up with the social calendar can become all-consuming. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But after 60, something truly transformative happens. The pressure to participate in every social event begins to fade away. We start to realize, with clarity and wisdom, that our time and energy are finite resources. The realization settles in that not every invitation needs our presence, and not every social gathering is essential to our happiness. This shift doesn't mean we withdraw from relationships or stop cherishing time with family and friends. Rather, we become more intentional, more discerning, and more thoughtful about where we choose to invest our time and energy. The fear of missing out gradually transforms into the understanding that we don't need to be everywhere or do everything to live a fulfilling life. We come to understand that true fulfillment lies not in the sheer quantity of social engagements, but in the depth and quality of the connections we nurture. No longer do we measure our worth by how many events we attend or how many people we know. Instead, we begin to value the meaningful, authentic interactions that truly bring joy and peace into our lives. We learn the power of saying no, without guilt or regret. In this newfound freedom, we no longer feel obligated to attend events just to please others or to maintain an image. We honor ourselves by engaging in social interactions that align with our values, that nourish us emotionally and spiritually, and that reflect who we are. This shift also brings a sense of liberation, freedom from the constant pressure to be socially available. We learn to be selective about where we focus our time, choosing to spend it on activities and with people that genuinely uplift us, rather than fulfilling obligatory roles that drain us. What's even more powerful is that the relationships we maintain after 60 tend to grow deeper, more authentic, and more fulfilling. When we no longer overburden ourselves with social obligations, we have more energy, attention, and love to give to the people who truly matter. The The superficial interactions that once filled our days become less frequent, replaced by moments of real connection and understanding. Additionally, this newfound freedom allows us to embrace solitude, not as loneliness, but as a cherished and vital part of life. We begin to relish the quiet moments, whether it's enjoying a peaceful afternoon with a book in hand, taking a walk through nature, or simply reflecting on the journey of our lives. Solitude offers a profound sense of peace, introspection, and clarity, an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves, without the distractions of constant social obligations. We no longer feel the need to constantly be doing or socializing to feel valued or validated. By focusing on the social activities that truly bring us joy and meaning, we enrich our lives in ways that obligatory socializing never could. After 60, our relationships are more meaningful, our time more precious, and our sense of self stronger. We come to understand that life isn't about how many events we attend or how many people we know. It's about the depth of our connections, the quality of our experiences, and the peace we find in living a life that reflects who we truly are. As we journey through life, we discover that with age comes wisdom, clarity, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. We've explored the freedom that comes from letting go of unnecessary worries, expectations, and obligations. We've learned that life is not about perfection, constant busyness, or being everywhere at once. Instead, it's about living authentically, embracing the present, and nurturing relationships that bring us joy and peace. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What have you learned so far that resonates with you the most? What's one thing you're going to bring into practice in your own life starting today? Please share your thoughts and insights in the comments below this video. If you like this video, please leave your comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for being part of this amazing journey with us.